hear Kanye's new song? What'd you think? Kanye West has a new song out now, right? And it's very provocative. We don't have to say the title. HH, we all know what we're talking about. And I wanted to get your take on this because there's all these conversations. Joe Rogan had a conversation about it. And it's much more disturbing than the song itself, I think, has been civilized people in the West's reaction to it. There's the provocations at the end and the controversy around the song, but then people sort of, rather than just reacting with unanimous contempt and condemning it and saying that it's gross and anti-Semitic, they're indulging with it, playing with it, saying, oh, there's something to be admired here on the bravery of going against cancel culture and censorship. So I'm just curious for you, understanding anti-Semitism at its roots, historically, when it starts in the culture and people start talking about things, how does it lead from the culture to the politics to the policy? Like, can you thread that for us?
I think it's something Jews, I think, intuitively understand, that when you start hearing songs like this, like, oh, it might not be good for us long term, but it's hard to make that case to someone when they're just like, hey, it's a song, man, relax. But we understand, no, it's more than just a song. This means something right now.
And the person saying relax means something.
I don't give a shit. I saw it only because you forced me.
Yeah. 3 times.
He says, I don't know why not to say it. He says, Heil Hitler. That's the refrain. And he explains that they took away his kids, and so he's the villain now. Heil Hitler. Okay. My 4-year-old also throws tantrums. The whole culture obsessed about Kanye's moral journey feels like a culture that needs a lot more interesting stuff to talk about. I don't know. I don't understand. It feels to me like there is a kind of emptiness in the American discourse, that in America's culture and America's discussion, it's all about breaking everything down. It was this. There was another thing that I was forced by the two of you to see. Look, I'm not an American. I play an American on television. No, I have this accent from high school and middle school, and I was some part of my childhood in America. And but I don't live in American culture, and I'm Israeli, which means I also don't care what the world chatter. Like I do, I professionally have to comment on it, so I have to care, but I don't literally actually emotionally.
But the idea, your 4-year-old has tantrums too. He doesn't have 30 million followers who are celebrating his tantrums and agreeing with his grievances.
Yeah, but that's a comment about those people.
Right.
What emptiness. What nothingness. There is progressivism, one of its foundational concepts is the demolition of all things, of all structures. Everything is ultimately a power structure, and if we crack everything open, nothing is true, nothing that our parents told us and our grandparents told us. It was all various kinds of systems of oppression in which very sad people navigated. And they broke it all down, and now they're living terribly sad lives because some of the things that society has built out over the centuries and millennia are actually not just systems of power, they're in fact systems of support and social capital and happiness and joy and meaning. So progressivism's great gift to the world is to tear everything down. And now I'm watching on the right this just desperate joy of tearing everything down.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, first of all, that's not right. That's generally not what conservatism is. Joe Rogan having this conversation with, what was his name?
Tom Segura,
in which they're doing exactly what you said. They're saying, looking at this video, and they're saying, look, what a beat. I mean, it was a great beat. I mean, he's really a genius at making a beat. Okay, mazel tov. But geez, you can't even say the words, Heil Hitler, guys. Those are the words. You can say, I'm a Jew, I give you permission. But the pretense that you can't say the words, and then to say, but it's important to stake out a claim that you can say the words. Bull fucking shit. Bullshit. Nobody's stopping you from doing anything, and nothing about this is interesting. There's no deep idea. There's no deep impulse. This is a children tearing everything down. And why are grown-ups children? Why is so much of American culture today just a bunch of children tearing things down and standing proudly and look, I tore it down. Marriage? Really marriage? Aren't I a genius? I just said, really marriage? Both fucking shit. None of it is real. None of it is deep. None of it is serious. It's nothing. It's a nothing burger. And if 30 million people are getting excited about Kanye putting out a little thing where he said, you took my children away and now I'm the villain, Heil Hitler, then 30 million people have allowed themselves to be lulled to sleep by the sheer, stupid, endorphin-based economy of this country. And it's sad and it's tragic. And while you're so distracted, you don't have fucking health care.
So great, noted.
Making Aliyah, let's go.
From a historical perspective, though,
You, by the way, said at the beginning of this that you were going to get me out of the calm demeanor.
Oh,
So
I
here
love
am.
it. Well, we're going to
Here
clip
I
up
am.
all of your Heil Hitlers.
Bring me more Kanye.
We're clipping
I'll
up every time you said Heil Hitler and just putting a compilation. Yes.
well, do you have a question on that?
I think it's the same question.
I want to just follow that thread, though. So noted, agreed, awesome. But from a historical perspective, because you are a student of history and you teach history, maybe you could give us an example from like the Soviet Union or just sometime in history where it went from like, fine, a society kind of breaking down and deciding to tear things down instead of build them up. How do cultural phenomena like this then lead to something like pogroms, something like deportation, something like ghettos? Is that easily explained, or?
I don't know that there's ever been anything like this. For example, the communists tore everything down, but they didn't tear everything down. They tore down an ancient, centuries old, I don't know what ancient is, but empire in the Russian Empire, and replaced it with an empire. And the empire was structured differently, the vocabulary was different, but it had the same empire and the same consultative elites and the same, and because they didn't have the social checks of the old empire, the churches, the aristocracies, the feudalistic structures, they were more brutal than the brutalities, which the old empire was brutal, but they were more brutal, more warlike, more vicious, more conquering. And more directly oppressive of the people. The Nazis they tore down the sort of Prussian elite, but they put in place absolutely an elite. And their vision was this German middle class vision, right? Volkswagen is founded by the Nazis because every family should have a car to go vacationing in the Alps. And so it was very much a pro-family conservatism revolution to break down the old imperial order. And get rid of anybody who doesn't fit the idyllic image through either, expulsion or extermination. I don't know that there's ever been the kind of, I don't know what the word is for it, utterly safe, utterly luxurious. The problem American kids face today, I think, is desperate boredom. Desperate, all-powerful, all-present boredom. Their lives don't have any meaning. They're not in physical danger almost ever. They can't even imagine. And when they do imagine, because things you don't experience but imagine always loom larger than the actual experience of them, they imagine it to be this horrific crisis. So they're scared of a thing that can never happen to them. They never have a chance to be excellent. They never have a chance to be brave. They never have a chance to serve. How would an 18-year-old actually commit to a life of service? Actually. Not screaming and self-righteously declaring their morality through virtue signaling, but actual serving.
Are you leveling that criticism at American Jews as well, who are possibly overreacting to this because they need to feel like they're in danger to have some sort of meaning, or is that just American culture broadly? Because I'm playing devil's advocate. Somebody in pre-Nazi Germany is saying, so the guy made a few speeches. And, he's making his rounds. He's saying, just ignore it. It's ridiculous. Look at Germans who believe that. They're ridiculous. They're stupid. This is childish.
A lot of people said that. And they said that
at the time,
authentically. And then eventually, as Hitler's power grew, they were saying that desperately out of a wish casting, hoping it's true rather than knowing it's true. And then eventually they were killed.
Doesn't it require a society to think anti-Semitism is fashionable and cool when it's meant, even when it's taken seriously, to say, and play with it? Isn't that fertile ground for some very dark things happening?
Kanye isn't deep enough to be an anti-Semite. That's not anti-Semitism.
Yeah.
That's not an actual idea about Jews. That's him tearing everything apart. You know what's taboo? That's what I'm going to do. Whatever's taboo.
Yes.
It's bullshit. It's childishness. And the whole culture the whole culture validates it by throwing all of its attention to him. Because the culture of celebrity has filled the space of religion, has filled the space of meaning, of any kind of shared ethos, of anything shared of any kind. And everybody's doing it. It's what Candace Owens does. It's what Tucker Carlson does nowadays. There's this thing we all think, it's not true. There's this other thing, it's not true. The only thing we know is to say what's not true. What is true? What do we believe in? What is our culture based on? What are we willing to sacrifice for? What opportunities do we give young people? I got to tell you, I am a very gentle soul, and with the exception of this podcast. And I was a bad soldier. I was just not very excited to be there, and I didn't enjoy the running, and I didn't. But I was still in the infantry, and I gave and I served, and the suicide bombings blew up on our checkpoints, and I stood on the border of Lebanon in uniform, and I know that if I wasn't in there in that spot at that moment, I wasn't like elite infantry. I was like grunt infantry. But if I wasn't there, someone else would have had to be there.
They're like, Haviv, stop reading. Check your post.
The problem was talking.
No, Enough. I get it. The Pale of Settlement. It's interesting. Can you please
Would you stop cursing?
reload? God. He's like, did you happen to know that?
You're joking, but it is a problem.
So you were in this position in infantry. You had your sense of service.
My
and
entire
sacrifice.
life, I know that I did something that was completely stupid. At 18, I gave years of my life to, you don't get paid in the draft army, and I did it because there's something bigger than me and I believe in it. And I was protecting, by the way, I was protecting all the children of Israel who stood behind me and were living their happy lives. And now I have children, and there are other young people who are standing as soldiers, and they're protecting my children. And someday my children will go be those soldiers, not because I don't value the life of my children. My children's lives are more important to me than the existence of the state of Israel. It exists to protect them. But they will take part in this great circle of protection, of generational protection that we give each other. That doesn't exist here.
Do you think we're taking the bait too much then on all of this stuff? And as an Israeli Jew, you're looking at us like, guys, you're just playing into this childish game. Like, stand for something positive. And what's the antidote?
I think this culture is, forgive me, I know how obnoxious this sounds.
It's
and
great.
I know, truly, no, but it sounds really patronizing. But God, what the hell who gives a shit? Why does it matter? Kanye could do this thing. You give it its validation. Ignore it.
Oh, I would
Turn it
love
off.
to.
Yeah,
Not
yeah,
you. Not your podcast. Not at all your podcast. I'm talking you, the 30 million followers. Yeah. You, the people who are excited in it. You, the people who are morally horrified. Yeah. Who gives a fuck?
I don't know. I think there's a disconnect there because I agree with you that no one should care. I wouldn't use your language, but nobody should care. But people do seem to care. And I guess my worry is that when a bad actor comes to exploit those ideas, an idiot introduced them to you, they were meaningless, you shouldn't have even paid attention to it, but now it is in your brain, and you do kind of think the Jews control the diamonds, and you do kind of think the Jews control the banks. It started as a joke, but now I'm going to now exploit that. Like, I understand how one thing leads to another, even if it's all meaningless at the beginning.
Keep an eye on it, and that's it, and then get on to the real stuff?
No, I'm Israeli.
Yeah.
Right. You're saying just get out of here.
No, God forbid you should get out of here. This is a great place. This is the best place
you had a
have
bagel
ever
before,
been.
and you enjoyed it.
It's just not your
I had
problem.
a whitefish bagel. Nobody else in the world makes a whitefish bagel like New York. But
we're trying to figure out what the proper, not underreaction or overreaction, but proper reaction is to this.
My sense is very simple. This is a deep sickness, and it's not fundamentally about the Jews. Anti-Semitism is never fundamentally about the Jews. It is always a signal of some rot deep in the culture. In this case, we can see the rot because if the same exact thing that happened to the left culturally is now happening to the right, then it's systemic and it's structural and it's built into American culture and society. The economics of America broke communities. Americans are one of the most mobile people in the world. There was a statistic from, 10 years ago. The average American moves out of their county every 5 years, and it's creating this, what they call the big sort. It's a book called The Big Sort. I read it on Bill Clinton's recommendation. I recommend that everyone else read it. And it basically talks about how Americans are self-sorting into places that all vote the same. And so the vast majority of congressional seats, the vast majority of counties and districts in America now have landslides in every election. You live among people who agree with you, and that means that it radicalizes you because you don't meet the other side, and the other side looks to you distant and far. All of these, we know everything that's happening with social media algorithms, right? That are driving people, that are
Siloing
creating echo
people off.
chambers and silo. All of these phenomena are turning people into crazy people, crazy, radicalized, silly, stupid people. And there isn't a shared, the corner church is emptying out. And religious society in America is empty, is shattering. Religion gives you community. Religion gives you a sense of meaning in the world. You don't have to believe in that religion so much, okay? We're Jews here? Okay. Do you have to believe in God to be a Jew? Not according to the Talmud itself. And so what the hell is, right? But a lot of Jews belong, and a lot of Jews help serve and connect without believing in that God. Why? Community. It's about being there, having backup, having social capital, having deep connections with people. I just saw this video by Scott Galloway that horrified me about swiping right culture.
Every 1,000 people, young men, are swiping. It's every 1,000 people. They'll get one coffee for every 2,000 women. What you're having, what I'm concerned about, is a total disaster of young men who are going to find themselves alone and single and resentful and turn to violent, misogynistic content. Yeah, I saw that too.
Every word of it is horrifying.
Yes.
Every word is not even his conclusion.
Scott doesn't get everything right, but I hear you.
People really date by looking
Love you, Scott.
at a picture on a phone and swiping? What have you just done to your culture?
Israeli
to your
women also look a lot
civilization?
better
It
than the
happens
average
in Israel,
American.
though. Well, it doesn't. It was invented in
Israeli
America.
women look are so much better looking than
get more
American women. The
swipes.
average, they'd get more swipes.
Okay, so maybe it's just because I'm 44. I don't know.
but it's a little bit of an apples and oranges
everyone
thing
I
because
know
community
is
in Israel.
dating for real.
Yeah, but in Israel, like, community is sort of built into the cake, a shared identity, a shared kind of kinship and history. In America, it's a bit different.
Neighborhoods
Yeah.
exist.
Yeah.
I lived in America. I lived in
Yeah.
Glendale, Wisconsin in high school. I did not know my neighbors.
Right.
Yeah. And that was
Starting then, you mean?
That was in the 90s.
I have in the last 5 years cooked 45 meals for women who had given birth in my neighborhood. I'm the cook in our house.
Yeah.
I did not know my neighbors in America. I submit to you that most Americans don't know their neighbors, and
It's-
if they know them, they're afraid of them. And because you can't leave your neighbor because they're your neighbor, you don't want to know them because what if you don't like them? And that's a culture, and it's a culture of loneliness.